Hey everybody, and welcome to DnD Horror Stories with DnD Doge. In today's video, we have a whopping 8 stories, including a story about a dungeon master that uses AI art generation to make pictures of his players, but has an ulterior motive to do so. A story about how a player unabashedly wrote erotic fanfiction of his and another player's character, and so much more. But before we get into those, I must ask that if you enjoy what I do here, that you crit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And internet research shows that kitties are really good for getting likes. There we go. Kitties always work. But now, I think we are ready for some DnD horror stories. Dungeon Master makes AI porn of the party, then disappears. By Reddit user SuspiciousCow11. I've played D&D for years, but I've mostly played with longtime friends, and this is my only horror story. It started last year. I had just moved to the US to start a PhD in applied maths, and was pretty lonely. The program was brutal, and I didn't have a lot of time for socializing. So my only friends outside of the department were thousands of miles away. At some point, I had mentioned that I played D&D to one of the other grad students, and he invited me to join his group. The group was mostly formed of people that he'd met at uni. He'd done his undergrad at the same institution, so it was a mix of people in their early 20s. Aside from 2 of us, both 23-year-old males, there was Dave, 25, male, who worked in finance, Zoe, 24, female, who was a med student, and Lily, 21, female, who was studying art. Now, the group was mostly great. The only relatively minor issue was Dave, our dungeon master, who was somewhat lacking in social skills and tended to have very strong opinions about things he knew little about. This was especially irritating when it was something that one of the rest of us did know a lot about, as he refused to back down, even when clearly wrong. But I'm a math student, so I'm no stranger to folks with poor people skills, and it wasn't too big a problem. I usually just tuned Dave out whenever he ranted. Anyway, we started our campaign in October. Dave had created a homebrew setting, which was fantastic and in-depth, and Lily offered to do some artwork for it. So over the course of the next couple months, she did character portraits, a few landscapes, and even did a painting of a few of the big battles. All of the art was really good, and it made the campaign so much better. I have one of the battle paintings hung up in my flat. Around Thanksgiving time though, Lily's workload picked up, so she had to stop doing art for us. None of the rest of us had any artistic talent, unless you count painting 40K miniatures, so we had to use stock pictures for new player characters. At some point though, Dave taught himself how to use generative AI, and decided to make a bunch of new portraits for us. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of AI quotes art, but he had already made them, so I accepted mine, and we started using them. They were pretty cool, to be frank. His software allowed picture inputs, so his portraits were recognizable as us. This will be important for later. He got really into AI image creation, and he ended up making tons of pictures. With our permission, he made a Twitter account to post the pictures, which I followed and occasionally scrolled through. He posted pretty regularly, like a few new pictures every week, and it was kind of interesting to see images of us in various scenarios. Unfortunately, this wasn't the only Twitter account that he had made. There was a second account that he hadn't shared with us, featuring more questionable pictures. One of Zoe's flatmates stumbled across it while doing, quote, research, and recognizing her, he showed her the account, and she showed the rest of us. It was pretty horrifying, to be honest. There were dozens of images of each of our characters in various states of undress. We decided to confront Dave at the next session. As soon as I brought up the Twitter account, he went white. After about a second, he just bolted out of the house, leaving his stuff behind. We tried to contact him, but he blocked us on everything and nuked both Twitter accounts. As far as I'm aware, he moved houses shortly afterwards. Although, whether he left the city or just moved across the street, I have no idea. So yeah, there's probably porn of me floating about the internet, which is slightly horrifying to think about. Well, that had to have been pretty creepy to find out about that. And when they confronted Dave, and he just bolted, never to be seen again, I can only imagine what everyone was thinking. Just the idea of someone taking your likeness and making quote art with AI is kinda spooky enough. But to then find out about that other account had to have been horrifying, especially since it's probably on the internet forever now. It's no wonder that Dave decided to break all contact and basically become a ghost to the group, as I can only imagine the shame that he felt after being found out. It is a shame that Dave turned out to be a creep, because as OP alluded to, they were having a great time playing D&D together. Though perhaps someone else can take the mantle of DM and keep the game going, but this time without AI tokens, as that would only bring back that memory. Maybe they could just use Baldur's Gate 3's character creator to make tokens. But with that said, let's move on. 2 players decided to farm character generation, by Reddit user Akai Kuroi. So, I have these 2 friends who like to optimize things. I wouldn't call them power gamers, because that involves good rule knowledge and usage, as well as some thinking process. No, these 2 are the sleight of hand type of optimizers, looking to exploit any loophole they can think of. So, we are playing Cyberpunk Red, the Monopoly money system. Every item in the system belongs to one of the 8 or 10 price categories in the game. There's a reason why it makes sense, but it is unimportant right now. What is important is any cyber arm cost $500, any cyber leg or cyber eye cost $100, any high quality shotgun costs $1,000, and so on. New characters are given $2,550, which can be increased to $4,050 if they quote sell their soul. So starting money reliably allows you to get a certain amount of items of certain categories. So the 2 rascals in question each sell their souls, then pick a fight with each other. Credit where credit is due. They roleplayed it as a conflict between 2 barrels of testosterone who decided to fight for the badass codename Mr. X. One of them kills the other. The player whose character died pulls another character sheet out, and with a crap-eating grin, declares that, oh well, to the victor belongs the spoils. Meaning, the other guy loots everything valuable off the dead guy. Then, they proceed to split said spoils because, quote, it is in the party's interest. At that point, the newest character announces that he is more of a Mr. X type. Rinse and repeat. I'd be mad if they didn't roleplay it, but as is, I'm entertaining giving it a pass if it stops at 2 characters, and if they share the goodies with the other players. Well, future cyberpunk problems require future cyberpunk solutions. I have to say that it is pretty clever for these players to do this, though I also have to say, if I was the one running the game, it would not fly at my table. But kudos to OP for letting them do that, if it does stop at 2 characters. Though I do wonder, who ended up with the moniker of Mr. X in the end. On to the next one. Critical Role Fangirls almost made me quit dungeon mastering. By Reddit user, available set 7163. For context, this was one of my first games as a dungeon master, and almost everyone was new to D&D, and I didn't know anyone well. The two problem players were Bard and Paladin. In short, they would either try and sleep with everything, or just talk about Critical Role. Sometimes, they would even talk over me and ask me to repeat what I said because they were too busy talking to each other. Now, I don't watch Critical Role, but it didn't help with them always talking about how I needed to watch it. In the second game, Bard even criticized my dungeon mastering by saying multiple times that Matthew Mercer would have done it a different way. This campaign lasted 3 games, before half of the players left, and I stopped DMing. And it took me a while before I started DMing again. Now, I like to think that I'm an okay DM, and have learned a lot. The only good thing I have learned from that game was to have a 0 BS rule. Edit. Just an update. This game was in late 2019, I think. Also, I have had only one other bad game as a dungeon master after that. Since then, literally every game I ran has been amazing, and I haven't had another problem player other than once. Yet another horror story involving the dreaded Mercer effect. While it is in my opinion that Critical Role has brought more people to the game, which in my eyes is a good thing, but it is a double-edged sword when the new players expect it to be exactly like a show that is a business and played by professional voice actors. Luckily, it doesn't sound like OP had to deal with these players for that long, and has since ran games that haven't had any more problem players. On to the next post. Dungeon Master uses the Implication to force erotic roleplay on female player. By Reddit user CoolTangerine185. Unfortunately, this is a dungeon master that I considered to be a friend. The campaign starts off with 5 of us at Dungeon Master's house. The Dungeon Master, my best male friend, playing a Wood Elf Druid, my best female friend, playing a Human Barbarian, my cousin, playing a Goliath Rogue, and me, playing an Orc Bard. This was the Dungeon Master's first time meeting the players. I knew Dungeon Master from work, and the others from school. He clearly liked Human Barbarian's player, and tried flirting with her. She told him that she had a boyfriend, so he took his flirtation into the game, specifically using his DMPC. She was okay with in-game flirting, but told him up front that she wasn't gonna get with the DMPC. So we went through this campaign and fought all manner of D&D baddies, working for an evil shadow sorcerer from the Shadowfell, trying to influence monsters in the prime material plane. As we fought and roleplayed, and dealt with the cringy DMPC, we all kind of grew attached to our characters, to varying degrees. I did notice though that Human Barbarian's player was getting a bit overly attached to the character. She would talk our ear off about her lore, bordering on main character syndrome, and would freak the heck out when she got low in HP. One incident in particular that stuck out was during a fight with a horde of revenants, and when she got downed. She started crying as she rolled a failed death save, and we were able to fight them off as we tried comforting her and assuring her that death in D&D can be an opportunity to flex your creativity, but that just made her more upset. Despite the danger, and thankfully without the DMPC, we healed her by the end, thankfully. She apologized for her meltdown and told us that she understood that characters die sometimes. She said this, but it was still obvious to everyone that she was too attached to this character. including the Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master later found a way to exploit this by leading the party to the DMPC's secret castle, as he planned to hold court to gather his allies, allegedly. As most of the party went down for a long rest, DMPC said, "I'll walk you to your chambers," to Human Barbarian. He told her stories of how forces of darkness, like shadow dragons, shadow demons, beholders, etc., will frequently attack these parts, sometimes many at a time. "It could lead to a TPK," he said. We could tell she was getting nervous as the DMPC went on about how, quote, "forces beyond the player's control can kill you in an instant if they don't get what they want." And then he arrives in her quarters and says, quote, "Best not to provoke these dark forces. I kiss your lips tenderly as I grab your hips and begin removing your succulent dress." She tells him to stop, out of game, as she still didn't want to sleep with the DMPC. Dungeon Master then said, "That's okay." You hear the bellowing echo of the darkness as DMPC begins chanting. Roll a perception check, everyone. As we rolled, I gave Dungeon Master a death stare, and he just chuckled as he said, "You all can tell it sounds like a powerful shadow monster, and he seems to have picked up your soul signatures as DMPC keeps chanting." She then called the Dungeon Master out on what he was doing, and DM said, "What? I told you there were dark forces at play." She started to cry, and DM just said, "Don't cry, you know how to get out of this." She then just got up and said she couldn't do this, and left in tears. Me and my other friend then got into it with the DM and said that he was being a creepy a-hole, and he then tried to pivot and claimed that it was a joke and that our friend was just too oversensitive, and made a remark about how this is, quote, "proof that women shouldn't play D&D. We did not get through to him, and unsurprisingly, we never played with him again. We talked to Human Barbarian's player and apologized to her for not intervening sooner, but she was just done with D&D at this point, and none of us have played since, with the exception of my cousin, who is still friends with the DM. TLDR, a-hole DM tries and fails to coerce a player to erotic roleplay with him, with the implied threat of a TPK by shadow monsters. Wow, what a scumbag. Now, was Barbarian's player a tad too attached to her character? Sure, but I think we all can get a bit attached to the characters that we play in D&D, especially if it's your first one. For the Dungeon Master to use this against her to try to force erotic roleplay is just so freaking low. Like, lower than dirt low. Could OP and the other players have tried to call the Dungeon Master out on that sooner? Maybe. But as it sounded, there wasn't really much time to figure out what he was doing. So in the end, I don't think it would have made a difference. Then, the Dungeon Master showed even more of his true colors when he said that that was why women shouldn't play D&D. It is a shame that this experience seemed to turn Barbarian's player away from D&D, but hopefully, she'll give it another go someday. This time with a Dungeon Master who isn't a creep. Let's move on. Player lashes out for not letting them be a Murderhobo, by Reddit user Jack DeFool. Hey everyone, I've been DMing on stream for a while, and this story happened over the span of 2 games. In the past, I had run another tabletop RPG to the same group, but the game died due to scheduling conflicts. One of the players brought their significant other into the game, and the significant other, let's call them Claire, is rough around the edges. Thing is, there was a moment on the current game where they are investigating a crime scene and a series of bizarre cases involving UFOs, Men in Black, etc. We were playing Delta Green. The thing is, when they are checking a car, the player, Claire, decides to try to break into the vehicle. A cop shows up and sees these two individuals trying to break in, so the cop draws his gun, thinking that they are trying to break an entry. The thing is, the player characters have FBI badges. They can just flash them and problem solved. But no, Claire decided to pull the gun and shoot the cop. We had to convince Claire not to do that, but she justified herself by saying, "My character has PTSD." I decided not to keep arguing about it since we were live. During the last game, we are doing some chit-chat before the stream, and I ask Claire, in a funny tone, quote, "And please try not to be trigger happy." To which Claire decided to shout at me, "It's my character, and I play it in whichever way I like. If you don't like the way I roleplay PTSD, then I can quit the game." Mind you, the game was about to start in 5 minutes, and I had no time to deal with this BS, so I allowed the game to continue. During the stream, the player decided to put a bomb on a building, not caring if the other player characters made it out alive. By the end of the scenario, Claire's character declared that they went insane with what they had seen, and decided to shoot the other player characters, killing one of the player characters for poops and giggles, and then passing out. It felt like Claire was bored and wanted to cause chaos for the sake of chaos, like only playing because their partner was playing. I spoke with 2 players, and they also felt uncomfortable due to this. They still want to keep playing, but we fear that they are a package deal, Claire and her girlfriend. So we are planning on continuing the game, but not telling them when we are playing, as a way to soft kick them out of the game. While I realize that OP's Tabletop RPG stream was about to go live in 5 minutes, I still think he should have just kicked her from the game after that outburst. That was a sign that she didn't really give a crap about OP, his game, or his stream. And as far as not telling them when the next game is to quote soft boot them, I would say that that isn't the way to go. Just tell them straight up that they are not welcome to the game anymore, and the reasoning behind it. Doing the soft boot by not telling them would just give them a bit of the high ground in regards to the drama that kicking someone ensues. Plus, Claire could come out with all kinds of accusations that OP kicked her because of insert rage topic here. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think on this one? Let's move on. 11 crazy people, and counting, want to come to my house. By Reddit user Computer Virus. I am in group therapy with about 18 other people. I have spoken in the group about how my main interaction with people outside of my partner and my family is when I used to play Pathfinder with friends. When I spoke about it, 3 other people expressed interest in playing as well. I approached them all separately after group, and each one wanted to join a new campaign with me. None of us like game mastering, so I asked my partner. He agreed, and the other 3 group members were really excited to play. So I made a Discord for the 5 of us to plan out the Pathfinder campaign. We decided to get together on Saturday for pizza and planning our characters. All good, yeah? Well, one of the people announced to the entire therapy group that anyone could join the Discord and started sending out the Discord invites. So more people joined. And now, since my boyfriend is in the group, they decided to start inviting their partners too. And all of them, 8 group members and 3 of their partners, are now planning to come to my house on Saturday for a pizza and Pathfinder. Only 4 of them know what Pathfinder is. I couldn't tell you the names of over half of them. I had previously pinned my address in the chat, and so they all have that now. Lord help me, I have no idea what to do. Boy, that certainly sounds like quite the pickle, and I can imagine anxiety-inducing. What I would suggest is to post in the group Discord that things got out of hand, and that there is no way that you can physically and mentally handle that many people coming over to your place, and that you are sorry for the confusion. Then, I would make a new Discord where only you can send invites, and talk to the person that sent out all the invites and let them know that you want to keep it small, with the original people that you invited to play. After that, reschedule the same thing for the following Saturday. Hopefully, OP can figure this out and gets to still start up a Pathfinder group that hopefully goes swimmingly. On to the next one. Player decides to have sex with a demon in 40k Dark Heresy. By Reddit user Viviskirks. I joined an internet game of Dark Heresy 2, one of my great RPG loves, and I'm stoked to get to play it again. I make my ex-guardsman and join the party of Sororita. There's also a Psyker, and some kind of Han Solo type pirate who's also a blank, a type of anti-Psyker. The first 3 sessions go amazingly. Our job is to work under an Inquisitor and track down a cult inner circle. Our sessions stretch long because we are having so much fun. Session 4 opens up, and we manage to do just that. There is a bit of a party split. Me and the pirate go to steal the cult's funds, a money case, and the Sororita and the Psyker go to try to prevent the cult from blowing up a water reservoir. Me and the pirate find out the cult has managed to summon a demon and bind it to a mortal body. Basically handed the demon a person to possess, more or less. I'm pretty experienced in this system, and I figure we can probably take the encounter, so we go for it. Because of how the dice land, we manage to knock out the demon host without outright killing it. Pirate announces that he wants to save this possessed person by exorcising the demon. I'm like, why not? It's possible, albeit hard, and I don't think any of the player characters know how. Psyker might, but he's not around. He then announces that the method he will do that is by having sex with the possessed. What? Well, okay then. Everyone kinda goes ill, and he just says, "Rose, sister, I'm just trying to save her." Now, I don't know where he got the idea of Sexorcism into his head. Apparently some anime. Yeah, that pretty much tracks. I don't know. I don't know Japanese titles, though it is not a thing in 40k. You can exorcise, but it doesn't involve sex. Everyone, including the game master, tells him this idea won't work, but he is adamant and goes on with it as the cult gets some damn lucky reinforcements and knocks me out. Elsewhere, the Psyker blows himself up accidentally, and the Sororita subsequently also goes down. So the only active guy is the one having sex as of present, and it's looking like a TPK. Our game master apparently decides to take mercy on us and has our Inquisitor employer swoop down to save us. He and his troops mop down the cult quite handily and pick up my character and the Sororita, both of us unconscious. Once he reaches the room where the dude is having sex with the demon, the Inquisitor just says, "Burn the whole thing, please." Pirate goes ballistic on Game Master, dropping falling rocks on him in the form of this powerful NPC who came to save everyone else, but went out of his way to kill him and rage quits from the call. Everyone just kinda concludes the session awkwardly, and I still have no idea if the guy is coming back or not. Now, it is a bit unfair to have a Deus Ex Machina to come save the whole party, but kill the one doing the dirty with the possessed person. Though everyone, including the Game Master, told this player that doing the exorcism that way would not work. I don't really know or play 40k, so I can't say for sure with the lore, but I would imagine that the Inquisition would see that character doing that to the possessed person, and that probably being the proper response. And I do have to say that this was the first time that I've ever had to read the word Sexorcism, and I hope it will be the last. But let's face it, with these stories, it probably won't. But with that said, let's move on to today's final story. Player wrote an erotic fanfiction about my character, by Reddit user Kitty Heel. Back a couple of years ago, in college, I played with a group of people online. The party was pretty big, 6 people, but the important characters for the story are me, a female orc bard, Knight, a female human fighter, and Barbarian, a male human barbarian. In this campaign, me and the Knight's characters, both women, were dating. Both players were into it, and the relationship was really cute. My character was an orc bard, who was flavored to be smaller and weaker than most orcs. She was like the runt of her tribe, and had to leave because she wasn't strong. Knight was, well, a knight, whose lord had been defeated, leaving them as a sort of wandering vagabond. The two being outcasts of their own societies led to them having a fun dynamic in roleplay. Barbarian was always a problem player, from an over-the-top backstory, to ruining crucial roleplay moments, to getting really mad over my supposedly weak character beating his at arm wrestling due to a natural 20. He always had a problem with the game. Throughout the game, my character and Knight had a number of cute scenes together, but nothing sexual or erotic. About halfway through, our characters went to an inn where we all got drunk. My character was being a bit flirty with some of the other characters and NPCs, including Barbarian, since she's a bard, and eventually had to be dragged away by Knight so she could go to sleep. I guess Barbarian got a bit jealous that his character did not get sexy flirty date time with my character, because after a couple of sessions, he brought in a multi-paged erotic fanfiction between my character and his, complete with cringy anime hentai dialogue and everything. The entire group was disgusted. What makes his thing worse is that his girlfriend at the time was also playing in the group, and his Barbarian had a bunch of flirty moments with hers already. I guess she wasn't enough for him. Not only that, but as I sort of mentioned earlier, my character was gay and dating another woman. She would not normally be interested in Barbarian to begin with. This whole incident, plus a couple of others, really soured the group, and the campaign ended shortly after that. There are so many posts I could make about this group too before we broke up, so I'll probably make more in the future. Wow, now that is a ballsy move. To write an erotic fanfic of their characters, and then bringing it to the group like it was something to be proud of. I guess some people just get so obsessed about certain things, like the concept of D&D characters getting together, that they're blinded by how creepy it is, especially to do so in front of his actual girlfriend. And as it sounds, this wasn't the only issue that this group had, as OP alluded to the group breaking up for various reasons, and that they may write some of those stories. So I'll make sure to keep an eye out for those. But that is all I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, especially if you like, comment, and subscribe. And may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.